Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and this is where we say the quiet parts out loud about being better leaders. This is for people who want to lead better with clarity, humility, and purpose. So here we go. Right now on today's episode, 7 questions to ask yourself for 2026. You are listening to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live with purpose. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and each episode is designed to give you simple, real-world tools to help you show up as your best self in work and in life. And why this episode matters is that it's going to have some great questions to make you think about where you are in your life. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of the questions that you're willing to face. Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to face ourselves. In some ways, it's probably going to be very uncomfortable, but I think it's necessary for us to make the changes that we need to make. So let's think about it this way. If you don't stop and ask better questions, life doesn't stop moving. It just quietly locks you into a version of yourself you never consciously choose. You know, the older I get, the more I realize something simple but profound, and that is the quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of how you face yourself. And I mean truly face yourself. I remember a few times in my career where I was just overwhelmed, tired, and frustrated, and honestly, burnout was literally tapping me on the shoulder. And one morning, no big epiphany, no fireworks, I just asked myself, hey, is this the life you intend to live or the life you've just settled into? And that question didn't fix everything, but it cracked something open for me. It changed the direction I was steering my life. And ever since then, I've learned if you want a great life, you got to start asking some great questions about where you are in it. And the real neuroscience behind this is when you ask yourself a question, the brain can't ignore it. It immediately starts searching for an answer. And that's called self-directed neuroplasticity, the ability to intentionally rewire your brain through awareness and inquiry. And that's what we're going to do. Questions open up possibilities, but statements can close it. So, saying things like, man, life is so stressful, well, that shuts a door. But if you ask, how can I design my life to feel less stressful? That opens it up. When you ask good questions consistently, you literally create new neural pathways. That's what strengthens clarity, awareness, and decision making. And that's how people change. Not by force, but by curiosity. All right, so let's get into it. 7 questions that are going to help you build a better life. These are going to be simple, powerful, and deeply clarifying. So grab your journal if you have one, or some paper that you can write down your responses on, because I think it'll be good to go back to at the end of the year, just like we're doing with our life list episode that we talked about a couple months back. But what I mean is that when you get to the end of the year, it's good to look at your progress. And if you made some, awesome. And if you didn't, that's okay too. You can recalibrate. Most people, and myself included, say or set a couple goals for the year, and I maybe get 1 or 2 out of 10, right? But that's better than 0. So we're all looking to make progress in our lives, and so I think these questions are going to be helpful. And just give each one 90 seconds of honest thought. No polishing, no editing, just your truth. Okay? Number 1, who am I becoming? Not who you were last year, not who the world wants you to be, not who fear is shaping you into, but who are you becoming through your choices, habits, and your mindset today? Because one of the regrets of the dying is that they didn't live their life true to themselves, but rather to the expectations of others. So just write down a couple words that describe who you want to be and how you want to live. Take your journal and just write down best version of yourself that you want to become. Number 1, who am I becoming? Number 2, what actually matters to me? Not what looks good on Instagram, not the goals people think you should chase. And strip everything down now and ask what genuinely matters to your soul. There's that joke, my boss arrived at work in a brand new Lamborghini and I said, wow, that's an amazing car. And he looked at me and he said, well, if you work hard, put all your hours in, and strive for excellence, I'll get another one next year. Hearing that joke taught me something I never forgot. You can spend your entire life climbing someone else's ladder and still never arrive. So think about that. What actually matters to me? what genuinely matters to my soul. All right. Number 3, where am I settling instead of reaching? We all have that one area of our lives where we shrink ourselves. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's our career, our health, or a dream that we tucked away somewhere. This question shines a flashlight on the places where comfort is quietly running your life, and maybe you didn't even know it. Most people don't lack potential. They lack the courage to disappoint others in order to be honest with themselves. Let's say that again. People lack the courage to disappoint others in order to be honest with themselves. People don't shrink because they're lazy or unmotivated. They shrink because their nervous system learned that expansion wasn't safe. So your brain is wired to avoid pain. Remember that. At some point, reaching for something higher cost you approval or belonging or confidence. So settling became a form of self-protection. The brain would rather choose familiar discomfort than unfamiliar possibility. Shrinking keeps the peace, it avoids disappointment, and it reduces risk. But it also quietly trades potential for predictability. And over time, what starts as protection becomes a prison. Growth doesn't resume when people are pressured. It resumes when they feel safe enough to be honest with themselves again. And so, number 3, where are you settling and maybe shrinking yourself instead of reaching? Okay, number 4, what is one courageous decision I'm avoiding? Everyone has one. Maybe it's a move. Maybe it's a tough conversation. Maybe it's a boundary in your life that you need to set, or it's a dream you've let go. Courage avoided becomes regret, and courage chosen becomes freedom. Just remember that not taking action at all is failing twice. Whereas if you go for something and it doesn't work out, then you just fail once. What I'm saying is that it's worth the risk every time. A really good, solid coworker of mine is going up for an interview, and it's a great position that could really build his career, and I honestly believe he has everything to do well in this position. So, of course, I'm rooting him on, been talking to him about it, but at the same time, I was also saying to him that, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out, don't take it too hard. Move on and go for the next one. If that doesn't work out, go for the next one. Because you're always going to get some no's before you get to your yes. And there's lots of time in my life where I got a no, but those were for a good reason because it led me to a better yes. There were so many times where, especially at work, people are like, oh, you got to take this position. You got to take this position. And this position must have been offered to me like 5 times before I was even 30. And I said no every time. And guess what? A better position a couple years later came along, and I was doing things that I couldn't even imagine a couple years before that. So life will give you no's. You will fail at certain things, but it will prepare you for something better down the road. So what is one courageous decision that I'm avoiding? Okay, let's go on to number 5. And that is, how am I showing up for the people I love? You know, at the end of our lives, the scoreboard is really simple, y'all. Did we show up? Consistency, presence, kindness, attention, things that don't really cost $1. And I think this is a really powerful thing to think about because we are often super easy and kind with all the people at work and our bosses. And then we come home and let out that inner frustration of our careers to our spouses and our family. And we have to think for a second, do they deserve that? Like, we go to work and give our best to the one who signs our paycheck, but maybe not 100% of our best selves to the ones who love us the most? Have you ever thought about that? Showing up for the people we love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about presence. It's answering instead of avoiding, listening instead of fixing, and choosing attention when life is busy and we're tired. Our loved ones don't measure us by what we provide or how hard we work. They remember how safe they feel with us, how often we are truly there for them, and whether we make them feel seen. In the end, consistency beats intensity, and presence becomes the language love understands the most. So how we show up is everything. All right, number 6, what is draining me and what is feeding me? So write down some things that are maybe taking away your energy, and then write down what lights you up, because your energy is your life's currency. Ask this weekly, sometimes daily. Identify the leaks and reinforce the sources. What is draining me? What is feeding me? And I know we've talked about this before. I've had to cut off people in my life that every time I talked to them, it was complaining or, oh, I'm so overlooked at work and I'm not treated fairly, or they're envious of somebody else. And it got to the point where every time I spoke to them, it was the same conversation over and over and over. And even though I gave them advice that would help set them free from it, it just was draining me. And it really goes to the concept of don't waste your time watering dead flowers. And we all know this in our minds, but yet we get into a mode of like, oh, I can help them or I can save them. No, I will tell you that in these instances, more often than not, a lot of those people want to remain broken. I hate saying it, but they do. Misery loves company. So let them take it to another company. Don't waste your time with it. What is draining you? What is feeding you? All right, number 7. What would the best version of me do today? Not someday, not when life feels easy, not when you feel like it. Today, right now, because the best version of you already knows the next right step. And I will tell you that this one really comes down to integrity, and that when no one's watching, you are showing up for yourself. Are you doing the right thing for all the people around you as well? Are you just checking out and watching 6 hours of Netflix? And there's nothing wrong with that, but life is made of action. And I was at the gym earlier today and I ran into a 75-year-old woman that works out there every day. And we were talking today about how one thing that separates healthy minds and healthy bodies is being active and productive. That doesn't mean you can't take a day off. It doesn't mean you can't relax. I'm not saying that. But people who are constantly in movement and taking action for the things they need to do just seem better off and are healthier and happier. So remember, what would the best version of me do today? Like showing up for yourself. All right, so I want you to pause this episode for maybe a minute. And I want you to reflect and maybe take notice of what question made you the most uncomfortable, because that's the one that you should work on the most. And here is your neurological and psychological lens for this episode. When you are consistently asking questions like these, your brain begins seeking coherence. It seeks alignment and truth, and it starts building neural pathways around reflective thinking. That literally improves our emotional regulation, empathy, decision-making, and resilience. Questions are not thoughts, they're tools, and they're mental levers. Over time, they shape your identity, and that's going to help shape your life. And here's your leadership edge for this episode. So leaders, the best ones are the ones who don't have all the answers, but they're the ones who ask the best questions. So what does my team truly need from me right now? Or where is someone on my team craving visibility, support, or belief? Or what friction, what boulder is getting away that I can remove? And then how can I help them build a career that they're going to be proud of? So when you lead with inquiry instead of ego, you create a culture where people will feel more seen, supported, and challenged. Trust me, all my best bosses did that. They led with questions. And every time I stopped trying to look like the smartest person in the room and started asking better questions, my teams didn't get weaker, they got stronger. Questions create connection, connection creates trust, and trust creates a better performance. And this is your call to arms for this episode. I want you to take with me a 7-day life questions reset. Each day this week, choose one of these questions. Write for 5 minutes. No pressure, no perfection, just honesty. And by the end of the 7 days, you're going to feel more clarity, more direction, and more alignment than you have in a long time. Because here's the truth. Your life will expand or contract in proportion to the courage of the questions you ask yourself. So ask boldly, ask honestly, ask like someone who's building a life they won't regret. And a year from now, future you will either thank you or quietly wish you had been more courageous today. You deserve a life that feels intentional, meaningful, and deeply yours. And the right questions are where it begins. So remember, number 1, who am I becoming? Number 2, what actually matters to me? Number 3, where am I settling instead of reaching? Number 4, what is one courageous decision I'm avoiding? Number 5, how am I showing up for the people that I love? Number 6, what is draining me and what is feeding me? And lastly, number 7, what would the best version of me do today? All right, so that is my episode. And I hope this impacted you for the better. And if it did, please leave me a rating or review on whatever platform you hear me on. Please hit subscribe so you won't miss another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. And if this episode inspired you, share it with another leader or somebody in your life that needs to hear it. And remember, the world gets better when we as leaders get better and we as people who lead our lives better. All right, until next time, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. But most of all, most importantly, go out and be the hero of somebody's story today. All right. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week and weekend. And I'll talk to you on the next episode. All right. Take care. Bye.